Welcome to the annual Music Education Q&A session at beautiful Central Michigan University. You all already know where you're at because I think you're all students here. Everybody's a student here, right? Okay, fantastic. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel. So I'm actually going to ask them to introduce themselves. I know who they all are, but I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their career, and then maybe one CMU story, one short CMU story.
We'll keep it short.
Yeah.
I'm Zach Vandergraaf. I teach currently at List Elementary in the Frankenmuth School District. I graduated in 2011. I was the first person to graduate with the general music minor for music education, so I always knew I wanted to teach elementary music, and that's what I've done ever since. I got my master's here from CMU as well in music education, and I have my Kodai certificate, which, if you're not familiar with that, is a specialized methodology for elementary music, and I did a couple of those classes here at Central, and I finished it up at IU. I am a founding member of the Michigan Kodai Educators, and I just love CMU. So teaching elementary is one of my most favorite things, but a story of my time at CMU, I'm a tuba player, and at the time, it was impossible to get good practice rooms here. You had to fight for them, especially ones that were on the main floor near the tuba storage room. And so I had a sneaky bad habit of leaving all my stuff in the practice room so that it was reserved for me for the next morning. And then we could take the sound panels off back then, so I would prop a sound panel up against the door so you couldn't see I'd left all my stuff. And eventually people caught on to that because they kept taking my stuff to the office, and I had to go beg to get it back from the office staff, and John Jacobson was here at the time, and he gave me such a hard time about, but it was really fun. So, not a productive one. Last year I talked about how we would sneak into Staples and practice quintet music, which was fun. But yeah, CMU, fire up chips.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Chelsea Vandergraaf. I am a 2011, but winter graduate, also a tuba player. I currently teach for Frankenmuth Schools. I teach 512 band. I have taught all K-12 in some shape or form during my time. We've been kind of around, sometimes hard to get into the same spot as a married couple, so it takes a little bit of time. But that is where we are right now, and are loving it. We are the music department, which is really cool, and we look forward to what that holds in the future. My funny CMU story was during Woodwind Tech, and we were working on saxophone vibrato with Professor Nickel, and he's going down the line, nice tone, good tonguing, nice vibrato. Chelsea, you're a nice girl. So to make it even better, that's what I wanted to start on in beginning band, and obviously I couldn't make a sound on it and still wasn't good at it during Woodwind Tech. Now I play with my kids at least once a week on saxophone, so it's fine. But yeah, I was a nice girl, so there's my funny story.
I'm Chris Anderson. I graduated from CMU in the fall of 2006. I taught middle school and high school band for 11 years and then moved to elementary, and I currently teach K through 2, so I teach the littles, for Sherwood Elementary for Saginaw Township Schools. What else? Oh, funny CMU story. So my freshman or sophomore year, the basketball team was good enough to make the MAC tournament, and so I was in the basketball band, so we got to go to Cleveland for the MAC tournament, and it was basically the university paid for a lot of it. My main instrument is saxophone, so I know all about leaving your stuff in practice rooms to keep the practice room, and I can totally see Mr. Nichols saying that. But we went to Cleveland, and we got to go do all the fun touristy Cleveland stuff, and then the team kept winning. It's like, okay, you get another night in the hotel, and here's some more money for food. Do what you want all day, see you here, catch the bus at 4 or whatever. And then they kept winning and winning, and we're just like, this is cool. So it was really fun to just hang out with a bunch of other people and get to know them on our trip to Cleveland.
Hello, I am Beth Anderson, and I graduated from CMU in the spring of '06. I'm a trombone player, And so, there we go, bones. So I was in the studio when Doc Bob was here still. I was in Delta Omicron when I was here. I know he was Phi Mu Alpha, they were Delta Omicron. So we've got that going on. I have, and so does he. Our master's is from VanderCook College of Music, which is out of Chicago, if you've never heard of that. They only do music education. So that was definitely a different experience for both of us, coming from Central to then doing that. And I have taught every level, kindergarten through 12th grade, band, choir, and general music, and also orchestra, except for beginning strings. Beginning strings is the only level that I have not taught. I'm currently the middle school director at White Pine Middle School in Saginaw Township, and this is my 11th year there. I love middle schoolers, of which people look at me and go, "You're nuts." But it's actually my most favorite part to do. Let's see here, things to remember. I don't know, there's a lot. So, but my favorite is with being also in Delta Omicron and Doc Bob. He used to every Christmas have us over to his house, and he would read Fox and Socks. And so it was, how fast can he read Fox and Socks? And so we would sit there, and that is probably my most favorite memory of him and CMU, is just having, here he's reading to a bunch of college kids Fox and Socks. But it was a lot of fun. And, really made it to be more of a family, which is one of the things I loved about CMU. So,
yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, so this is a question and answer panel. I do have questions prepared just in case you all are sitting there, heads full of curiosity, but nothing specific. But if you have a question, now is a great time to ask it. You can just raise your hand, and I'll call on you, and Charlie will run to you like the wind. And we're also going to check the live stream to see if anybody on the live stream has questions. So if you're on the live stream and you have questions, then you can let Charlie know, and Charlie will ask a question. But if there aren't, very good. Give it to us.
All right, I do. I'm going to fumble over my words. All right, what is the process and hurdles in looking for jobs? What's different about applying for a music position rather than a general one?
Okay. Yeah, you can start. You're in control.
So one of the hardest parts about getting a music position, that there's usually only one. My building has 7 kindergarten classrooms, 7 first grade classrooms, 7 second grade classrooms, and 1 music teacher. And that's true of most schools. You'll only have 1. And we're a bigger district, so we have middle school and high school separate. In Frankenmuth, for example, she is the secondary instrumental music department. So that's one thing. Another thing is you really have to network, and you really have to, I used to tell people, who you know will not get you a job, who you know will get you an interview, and what you know will get you the job. So I would say those are two big things. If you did not go to the Michigan Music Conference this past weekend, I encourage you to go next year and network with people from around the state. If you're not in, I think CMU has a NAFME chapter. Go to events outside of Central and network with people. A lot of times also jobs will be posted, but you won't know because they won't be on like a massive job site or like a board. So you, like if a job comes open, it might be word of mouth that you hear about it, or like I said, who you know.
Yeah.
A challenge that we've had too, as they also said, is if you're married to somebody who is also a music teacher, then that limits your location. How far can we go away from where we live? Things like that. His comment about it's who you know. The reason that I got the job at White Pine Middle School is the director before me was also a trombone player from Central. And he had told the choir director, hey, make sure you look out for her application the choir director had gone into the office, hey, is her name in that pile? And they were like, oh, we didn't look at that. And so they added me to that pile because of that. So it's not necessarily just what's on your application. It really is who you know. And so his comment about making sure you talk to people. When you're student teaching, getting to know that martial music, herder music, whoever, those reps know everything. So finding out information from them is like, you really do need to listen to, hey, have you heard who's retiring or who's leaving or things like that.
Two things is, number one, kind of a hurdle, but in a different sense. Know that your first job is probably not going to be your dream job. Be okay with taking a job so that you have a job and put in what you can to that job, but it might not be your dream job. Most of us don't stay in the first job that we get. Did you? Yeah, you've got 4 of us here. Like, we've been all over the place. Granted, we're all, have a spouse in the same field, so that does make it a little more difficult. But just know that first job might not be exactly what you want. Oh, there's an elementary job that's open. Don't really see myself teaching elementary. I really want the band job, but at least getting your foot in the door, especially if you're like, hey, that band director, that orchestra director, looks like they might be retiring soon. It's always good to kind of like get your way in and network with the people that you're working with, because if they do retire, then maybe there is a way that you can pop over. And I lost my train of thought on what my second one was. Zach's got it.
I got you. It's all good. Yeah, definitely networking. I don't think you're on that Facebook page, if anybody's on Facebook anymore, but I know that I think you were running it, Dr. Gum, for a while, like music education alumni. A lot of like people will be like, I'm leaving for this job, or I know this person's retiring, and they'll post it there before the job's even up so that people can get their stuff ready, or they can reach out to the school district and be like, hey, I heard through the grapevine that you've got a job opening. Here I am, supremely qualified, and I am ready. Because most of your admin, if not all of them, will not be music people, which is the other big hurdle. So they really don't necessarily know what they're looking for. You just have to be the one they're looking for. And in your interviews, when you get them, because you will, it's not as crowded of a field as it was when we were all coming up. When Claire's job opened up for band director, it was something like 200 people applied for that job. And that's in Claire, and I love Claire, and Jason Lau's there, and he's one of my best friends. But like, that's not a huge job, and there were a lot of people going for it at the time. So it'll be a little easier that way. But in your interviews, don't come at it with like, I need to like justify, like I'm justifying to my professors that I know what I'm doing. Because you could talk about like a beat and a rhythm, and the people on your interview panel will be like, that's the same thing, right? Beat and rhythm, it's totally the same thing. High and low, yeah, that's when you play loud and soft, right? That's the same thing. They don't know what's different. If you're lucky, you'll have a music person on there, but I think in all the interviews I've done, one time I've had a music person on the interview panel. Every other time is people who have no experience with music. So get used to being able to clearly explain what it is you do and why you are important and valuable to the school district. So kind of prepare that in your head. And don't like explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to like a kindergarten teacher who doesn't know a trombone from a tuba, kind of a thing.
Fantastic. All right. Do we have a question on the live stream? Just double checking. Oh, we have a question right over here. Charlie's moving fast. Fantastic. All right, give it to us.
So, for graduate degrees, what is something that you learned that you didn't expect to learn?
Oh, that's right, because you all have graduate degrees. Oh, sorry. But, you have a lot of experience. Okay. Zach, would you like to get started?
No.
Okay. That's fine. Uh-oh. I knocked over my thing.
You want to start? When we did our master's at VanderCook, they required that you took private lessons. So that was one of the things we did, and it was a 3-summer program. So taking private lessons on those instruments, and I took voice Because I'm a trombone player. Now, I had sung all the way up from, like, you know, at church and things like that, and always been told I had a great voice, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm like, how am I making that sound? What do you mean doing this and this? So learning body placement was something that I had never really, even though there was vocal techniques when I took it, it was a non-major class too. So like we had a kid in our class where he wanted to sing for his girlfriend for their anniversary, and so we spent like 3/4 of the class trying to help him to sing with that, instead of really learning everything else for how to teach it. So that was definitely something. And we also were required to be in the choir, and it was a mass. Everybody who is a graduate student was in the choir, and we sang in 6-part harmony in German. And I was like, wait, you want me to do what? And the concert's next week? So doing those things, those were unexpected during my master's. And then with it being just focused on music education versus like making sure you can know how to do the sounds and doing, your techniques class, it was more, how do you teach it? And it really delved more into that. And we really appreciated that aspect of it, because there were different things that we picked up there that we were like, oh, that's why my clarinets can't do what I want them to do, things like that. So we also liked going to some place that, we did, obviously loved being at CMU and things like that, but going someplace else and getting those new ideas and new ways of that other people did it. And most of the people who were teaching classes were teachers themselves. So they would come in, and so it was all about what, this is what works in my classroom. It might not work in yours, but, so that was really helpful with that.
Another thing at VanderCook, you stole most of mine. She kind of alluded to this. The methods classes and the techniques classes are separate. So there is a woodwind methods class where you learn how to teach flute, clarinet, saxophone, oboe, bassoon. And then there's the technique classes where you learn how to play the instruments. So like we took brass methods because we had to, so we learned about how to tell a kid how to play a trumpet. And then I took high brass techniques where I played trumpet and horn. So that's something that at Central you have 3 weeks basically to not only learn the flute but also learn how to teach it. So it's and I think in terms of what I learned is just I really like the fact that it was a different perspective. I really like the fact, I would encourage you. We loved our time at Central. That's why we're back. We do alumni band. We try to do alumni band a lot. We love it. We love coming up here. Don't get your graduate degree from here. And like I said, I love Central, and it's a great institution, and I learned a ton. But there are so many other perspectives and so many other ways of doing things out there. We took a week-long class at VanderCook of creating and teaching a rock and roll history class. And we liked the campus so much. We liked the people. We were like, wow, this, and everything there is you can take it back to your classroom and say, because the professors will say, all right, when you do this with your students, say this. If your student is having this problem, say this. It was all very educationally, pedagogically oriented. And again, her whole thing of choir, I'd never sung in a choir. I did not do church choir. I did not do choir in high school. I'd never sung in a choir before graduate school. And Dr. Gum and us we were talking earlier. I wish that CMU had made me take choir. And if you are an instrumentalist out there and you have not taken choir and you can fit it in somehow, take choir. If you're a vocalist, take U-band. Okay? Experience the other thing. Because number one, as Chelsea alluded to, your first job might be band and choir. Your first job might be K-12, general music, band, and choir. So I encourage all of you watching and on the internet, experience the other thing. Whether you're an instrumentalist, vocalist, try to get as many experiences as you can, for a variety of reasons.
My first thing about graduate schools I want to say is that I encourage you not to get one right away if you're in music education. Go teach for a little while first. Because one of the things that I know, I'm sure that you guys hear it, but I hear it too from like freshly graduated people that are new teachers that are like, I wish they had taught me this. It didn't matter which school they go to. They're like, I wish they had taught me about this. I wish they had taught me about this. And I'm going, they did. You had so much stuff to learn that wasn't a piece that stuck to you. All this other stuff stuck to you. So when you go out and teach, that's when you're like, oh, I have a deficit in this area, I have a deficit in this area. And when you go get your master's, find a program that will cover those deficits. And a lot of programs, I got my master's at Central, and I don't know if it's just because I was friendly with a lot of the staff or what, but I kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I got my way in with the classes that I wanted to build masters, because they're not like set in stone. You get to pick and choose. So like 2 of my Kodai levels I took here as part of my masters. And I TA'd for a class here for music for classroom teachers, so I could kind of see what the classroom teachers did, and those things were really helpful. There's some other classes that you have to take that were really interesting, like the advanced theory kind of those things. Those were less directly applicable to my kindergartners about, you know, why Tchaikovsky is actually really underrated in terms of his compositional strategies, but it gives me a knowledge and a passion that they can empathize with. But one thing that really surprised me was my music research class, just knowing, like, changing the thought process around, like, accepting what is considered common practice out there and having the tools to dig more into the research and be able to find, even if all you do is read the abstracts, which is about as far as I can go, and realizing when you look at a bunch of these that like, oh, maybe this thing, like I did my literature review thing on cooperative learning strategies in music, and I found that a lot of the things that the people who are selling you books are saying is not actually what is like hard and fast the best practice, and so there were different ways that you could adapt them, and that was directly applicable to me, and now I have the tools to go and find other information where I need it. So being open-minded, but knowing that a master's program should fit what you are looking for in what you have a deficit in.
Yeah, I cannot echo strongly enough that you should teach for a little bit. If you're going to get a master's degree in music education, the classes are designed for music educators. Typically, that's what the programs are designed for. And so the idea is that you'll come to them with some background as a teacher, not just as a student. And so, yeah, excellent advice. Fantastic. Well, I want to ask a question, and then sorry, Jane. Sorry, Jane. And then Jane will ask a question. Jane will have a great question. Yes, Jane is in my class right now. But so when I was putting this panel together, and you know the fact that you're married and you're married to, you know, you're not all married together, but pairs of married people. Anyway, and combined with the fact that my students ask me quite a bit about work-life balance, and I often don't know how to answer that because I feel like I say no really easily, maybe too easily. I'm pretty selfish, and like I'm pretty good at like this time of year I don't have work-life balance, but the rest of this part of the year then I do, and so I'm not really sure how to answer them a lot of times, but I was like, I bet these people will know how to answer. So my question to you is, what do you think work-life balance means to you as a music teacher? And so kind of be a little bit brief on that, but just like, what does it mean to you as a music teacher?
Okay, so this is like near and dear to my heart because actually just at the conference last weekend, I was talking to another friend who came in the same year I did. Now he's a professor of saxophone, Dr. Jordan Van Hemer. But we were talking about it, he's like, we never talked about this. Correct. We never talked about it, and quite the opposite. We were told, go do what you need to do, get it done, be the best you can be, which means that you're going to go to your classroom and you're going to live there. And that's how many of us walked out of here going, okay, if I'm not living in my classroom, if I'm not the last person out of the building every day, I must not be doing my job correctly. And that is quite frankly, the opposite of what you should be doing, because it's going to burn you out and you are going to have zero work-life balance, period. We go in as performance-based educators, and we have more things on our plate than our general ed cohorts do. It is. It is what it is, and we know this going in. Like, I want to be a band director. Okay, you know that you need to do all of the normal stuff that everybody else does, plus all of this. Yes, I do. And you know you're not going to get paid for it. Yeah, essentially, because it doesn't come out too much. But there's also that balance. And I like what you said of, this time of the year I have stuff where I can have balance, and then this time of the year I don't, right? And it's a push and pull. Work-life balance is not the same for every person, and it is not the same every day of every year. The day that you have marching band and you've got a football game and you're going to be at school until the last kid goes home at 10 o'clock is different than a random Tuesday that you don't have a concert, you don't have solo and ensemble season, that you don't have XYZ, and you can shut it down early. Okay? So for me, I put in my email signature when my office hours are. And those are the times that I'm going to respond to email. End of story. I don't have push notifications for my work email on my phone. I don't have them on my iPad. I very adamantly do not check it at home unless I know I need to because something's coming in. I didn't my first, 5-6 years of teaching. And it drove me absolutely nuts. I would get that one random parent email at 9 o'clock at night that would just send you down the rabbit hole, crying. It wasn't pretty, and you can't do that to yourself. So that's my number one, biggest goal for you is set a time, okay? As a band director, we have times where we have to work late. Set 1 or 2 days a week. I'm gonna stay here until 5 o'clock, whatever the time is. I am going to work. I'm not going to scroll on my phone. I'm not going to play a game. I'm not going to go talk to my colleagues. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work and I'm going to get it done. And when it turns 5 o'clock, I am shutting my computer down. I'm turning the lights off and I'm going home. You have to set those boundaries for yourself, or you very easily go into, just half an hour and I'll get everything done. Newsflash, there will always be work. If you work until 8, 9 o'clock at night, you're still going to come back tomorrow, and there's still going to be work. It never goes away. It never completes itself. The only thing that you're hurting is you. So those are my biggies.
It's easier as an elementary music teacher. I'm not going to lie. I don't have nearly the amount of practices or anything like that I have to worry about. Christmas does get crazy, and being married, I'm sure that these two feel it too, gets crazy. In Frankenmuth, it's Christmas town. So our Christmas concerts are like bananas. So I think we had 12 concerts within a 9-day span, which was pretty crazy, between kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, beginning band, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, high school, and then a caroling and all this other stuff. So work-life balance in December, everyone's yay, Christmas. I'm I hate Christmas now so much. Don't tell anyone back there I said that, because then the Bronner's family might come track me down. But so it's easier for me to set that boundary, but definitely turning off the push notifications for emails. Even I get emails and messages randomly from parents who are upset about something or other, although most of the time it's nice. Most parents are nice. I guess another thing I will say is get a hobby or two that is not related to music, and you're well, that seems pretty obvious, or I already have a hobby, it's music. If music's your hobby and you teach music and all you do is music and music and music, you're gonna burn out that way too. Even, performing, if you play in a band, I play in a polka band, that's super fun. That's a break for me, because it's not work so much, but it's easy to fall into a trap of this is who I am, music teaching. I am a music teacher. This is everything I am. So have those hobbies on your lunch. If you recharge your social batteries or recharge your batteries by talking to your colleagues about non-teaching related things, make sure you do that. Find friends you can do that with. If you're like me and prefer to be alone, and that's how I recharge my batteries, I'll go for a walk and listen to a podcast, or I'll like get on my phone and I'll play cribbage because I'm a nerd and I love cribbage. And so I'll do that even if it's just for like 10, 15 minutes when you can during the day. That'll recharge your batteries too, and it'll help that balance piece.
Are any of you saxophone majors? No? All right. If you're on the internet and you're a saxophone major, you can raise your hand. So I don't know if this is still true of the saxophone studio, but the saxophone studio, looking back, was crazy. Like there'd be people here at 8 o'clock or not before practicing. I'd have quartet rehearsals at either 8 a.m. or 10 p.m. depending on the day. All of us were in a fraternity. I was in Phi Mu Alpha, Hail Symphonia. We all had meetings on Tuesday nights after the concerts that would sometimes go until 10:30, 11 o'clock. They touched on it, like, when you eat, sleep, breathe music when you're in college, it's hard to balance that out once you leave. Because, yeah, like you say, if you're not in your room, 12 hours a day, you're obviously not doing your job well. One of them said this, they touched on this. Work-life balance for me started when I realized that my job, your job is what you do, your job is not who you are. And it took me a very, very long time to figure that out. Even after I had my first kid, I really had not figured that out yet. My wife's nodding her head here. Because half of my family are the people that they derive their sense of self and their sense of self-worth and their sense of purpose from their job. And I, being brought up that way, I was like, oh, I guess that's how this works. And then I went from a job that I liked most of the time to one that I really didn't, but it paid the bills for a couple years. And I struggled because I had put so much of my identity as a person was wrapped up in my job, that it took me a very long time to make that mind shift of, okay, my job is what I do to make a living and to provide for my family, but if I leave my job, they're going to replace me within a couple of weeks. Our daughters only have one dad. Another thing is, if you have a spouse who's, even if they're not a music teacher, communication is huge. Like, our Google Calendar is very colorful because of all the stuff that we do. And then it's just a matter of how much time you want to spend on something. Like Zach said, being an elementary music teacher, it makes it a little easier. I go home at the end of the day, and I don't take a whole lot of stuff home with me. I do 2 evening performances a year, one in December, one in April. But I also do a lot of other stuff. I conduct a community band. I take my daughter to soccer practice. I write a bunch of marching band drill in the summer. So I'm able to do all of those things because of my job. If I went back to teaching, band and having more commitments, that would be a little different. She mentioned concerts. Between us and our 10-year-old, we had 10 performances in the month of December between all of us. And I think only like 2 of them actually involved more than one of us. Maybe. So like I had concerts, she had concerts, our daughter had band choir concerts, so and caroling. So communication is the biggest thing. And then setting timers for yourself, saying, okay, getting in the mindset of I'm going to do what I can today, and if there's something that's not done, I guess it's going to have to get done tomorrow. And then prioritizing what you need to do. I have I call it my life OS, where I have all the tasks that I need to accomplish for different things, and they're prioritized of things I need to do immediately, things I can do in the short term, things I can do in the long term, and things that are like, I'll get to it eventually. So being able to prioritize your tasks and prioritize your time was huge for me personally.
So beyond being a music teacher, I also have ADD. So time management is sometimes a struggle, and lists are huge. If I don't have a list, it's not getting done. So making sure that I know that, and I know of what I need to do and when. As he was saying, our Google Calendar is color-coded, so we know who's going to be where and when. so that we can make sure that we are where we need to be. I will be honest, the reason I do middle school band, besides loving it to be, I really do like middle school band. Well, I also do choir, but band. But the reason why I do middle school and have not wanted to try to find something else is because so many jobs in our area are middle school and high school. And I have decided that being a mom is way more important to me than my job. And so I have really made that a priority. And there are some times where the high school director, he's single, he does not have any children, he has never been married, he doesn't even have a pet right now. And so his life is, yeah, sorry, no, but he's almost retiring either this year or next year, so those of you looking, but he has made that program, though, his life. And he gets very angry with me sometimes when I tell him no. But at the same time, no is something I am okay with, and that does have to be something you are okay with doing as well. You have to be okay with saying no, not just saying no, because there are sometimes you can say no, but being okay with saying no is really important. No, this is my life. This is not, if something happens to me, that job will keep going, as he said earlier. That job, they're going to find somebody else. It's not going to be a big deal. But our family, that's something that we have really prioritized, and that's, very important to us. Being able to go to my kids' soccer games. And now there are some times where, I'm going to miss, all-star band, I'm going to miss her soccer games on that day. But I already know that ahead of time. We prep our family of knowing, hey, these certain days, solo and ensemble, no, I'm going to be busy, most of that day, won't be able to be around. So just, making sure that our family knows, what we have going. And sometimes we work around some of those things, but sometimes it's one of those, he takes the kids and goes to do something else. Or sometimes, this summer, he's going to be working at 3 different band camps. And so I get to take the kids and go do fun stuff and be like, hey, have fun, but I'm going to the zoo. So, having just that time of, we enjoy doing things as a family. And so, making sure what is most important to you. Is this specific thing most important, or is this other thing more important? And then prioritizing what you enjoy most and making sure that you take time for yourself. Don't just only focus on your job. It is a job. So.
Super fast. Absolutely. All right, everybody sit up tall. You're falling asleep. All right, repeat after me. Say, let me get back to you on that. That was pathetic. Say, let me get back to you on that. Yeah, there's almost no situation where you need to say yes or no in the moment. Give yourself at least 24 hours before committing or denying something, unless you know you have absolutely no bandwidth. If your instinct is to say yes, just say, let me get back to you on that, and then it might sink in. Oh, dear God, I do not have time to do this thing. Okay, no, I can't do it, I'm so sorry. And almost no one is going to be upset with you for saying no, especially if you give them the time and let them know that you were considering it. So that's all I want to say.
That's great advice. Also, typically, they do look sleepy. Typically, if somebody's trying to hard sell you, you have to say yes or no right now, then just say no. That's what I would do. There's very few times where you have to say yes to something like that. Anyway, all right, great. Those were great answers. Thank you. Jane did have a question, and it's Jane's turn now. Go ahead, Jane.
Jane, the cribbage fan.
Yes. Hi. Okay. My ultimate goal in the future is to teach middle school choir and orchestra. How do you manage, or how do you balance teaching 2 different subjects at the same time? So that can either talk about different grade levels or just different subjects, because it's tricky because it's twice the concerts, different kinds of rep, all that things.
So I teach right now currently 8 different types of classes. Because White Pine we used to do the International Baccalaureate program, and so middle years program, and so they put all electives every other day. So I teach sixth grade choir, or sixth grade music, seventh grade choir, eighth grade choir, sixth grade band, seventh grade band, eighth grade band, and eighth grade music, which is more of like a general music type class. Balancing is not always the easiest when it comes to doing all of that, but what we do at White Pine is in December, we do a sixth grade concert, a seventh grade concert, and an eighth grade concert. And so that makes it so that it's band, choir, and orchestra all on the same concert. So while I am doing 2/3 of that concert and the orchestra teacher is only doing 1/3 of that concert, it's still one night. So doing that makes things a little bit easier. And then in the spring, we do 6, 7, 8 band, 6, 7, 8 orchestra, 6, 7th, and 8th choir. So I'm doing 2 nights that time versus 3 nights in December. But that definitely helps in keeping those balanced. And then, like I said before, lists. Like, that is the only way that I stay organized is like, okay, which copies do I need to make when? How am I doing this specific class? What am I, what is my goal? When do I need to have the music? When do I, because I'll be honest, choir, they learn their music way faster than my band kids. So it took me a couple years to figure that out. And then I was like, why are we so bored and they're screwing around? Oh wait, besides they're middle schoolers. But choir though, it definitely, I'm like, oh, I cannot start this music as early as I do with band and expect that they're gonna keep working and working and working on their music, because they're not. Especially because they also usually don't practice at home. The choir usually tends to not, whereas band, it's kind of expected. And so having kind of those goals of knowing when do I want the music to be learned by, when do I need to order it by, because that's the other thing is you have to order within enough time, usually at least 2 weeks. Sometimes if it's back ordered, then you go, no. But making sure you have those things. I'm also not, even though I took 4 semesters of piano, actually 5 because I had a C in piano 3. So even though I did all that, I am not the best piano player. And so I use a lot of MP3s and things like that with my choir classes. So that also actually alleviates some of it off of me. So I'm not having to practice that piano music all the time. If you can have a piano accompanist, it's even better, because at one of my other schools, I had an accompanist. Made my life so much easier. But having, those things where you're not having to do learning your part as well as learning their part, that does help to alleviate some of that.
Obviously not the same, but teaching 2 levels at the same time, kind of the same idea, but this is just a general. Please get involved in your different organizations. If your strings, if your voice, get involved. MSBOA, MSVMA, get involved in those organizations and find mentor teachers. Reach out to the teachers who are around you, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented. They have strategies and helpful hints for you when you're first teaching, especially when it comes to programming, when it comes to deadlines, when's this festival, when do I need to turn in my money, all of those things that they're not what you're doing in the classroom, but they can make or break you. You missed the deadline in the regular deadline and the late deadline for band festival. I guess you're not going this year, right? Like, there's deadlines for a reason, and the mentor teachers around you, your colleagues, like, use them. Don't feel like, well, I should know all of this. No, like, we, at least in MSBOA, we set up a mentor-mentee kind of role for our new members so that we can help you on those deadlines when you should be doing things. And so you have a friendly face when you go to the meetings or when you have a question. It's okay to ask a question. It's okay not to have all of the answers. Use the resources that you have around you. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. So I can also speak to this a little bit. Many of you, who are my students? People who are my, look at that, nice. Yeah, you were my students, you know. So I taught K-12 everything at my 2 school districts because they were very, very small school districts. And so all of the things that Chelsea and Beth had to say. Those are all excellent. Please do all of those. And then I would also say that to lay your ground properly. And that means both your physical room. So think about what do you have to do every day and try to reduce the number of times you need to get up to go get something, or are you going to be physically uncomfortable a lot because you've got to keep twisting to go get this thing? What do you need to see every day? Where do you need your stuff to be? I had the instrument supply companies would give me these huge calendars for the year, and I'd put them up on my wall, and one calendar was for kids' birthdays. It was sacred. But the other calendar was for concert dates and competition dates, and when are they doing the clarinet workshop, and when are they doing the saxophone workshop, and when are they doing the tuba workshop, and when are they doing these things. And then everything went on that calendar so that I could see it and be like, well, I don't think we can do both the tuba and the clarinet workshop. That's not going to happen. Or, when do I need to start prepping for concerts? And that was in my office where I could see it really, really easily, so that I could be like, oh, no, I can't say yes to this. This is on that date. So having a calendar where you can see it very easily was really helpful. And join the organizations. I always went to all of the conferences to reinvigorate and refresh and gain new tips and tricks and things that I hadn't thought of. So those are really helpful too. Great question, Jane. Thank you. Excellent.
Another fun phrase you can use is, let's circle back to that. So I want to circle back to your question of hurdles to getting a job. Two. One is what you are willing to do, and the other one is where you are willing to go. Because our certification, JX, JQ, whatever it is from the state of Michigan, is K-12, band, orchestra, choir, general music. I am not qualified to teach a high school orchestra, yet I'm certified. I didn't think I was qualified to teach elementary, but I love doing it, which is great. So if you are limiting yourself in finding a job to a specific area, and there's a choir position or an elementary position, well, I need a job in this area, but there's no band positions open. If you have something specific like middle school band, you are going to end up in an urban area because there are no rural districts that have just middle school band or just middle school anything. So then it's a matter of where are you willing to go. We used to live on the west side of the state, and then I got a job over closer to Flint, so we moved over to that area. And I'm glad we did because her parents live in Novi, which is about an hour from us, and we have a support system for our kids now. We're here, my mother-in-law's watching our two kids, and we have the support system in place. So part of that also, where you're willing to go, is how far are you willing to go away from whatever familiar support system you might have. I understand that not everybody has that, but if you're fortunate enough to have that, that's something you need to think about as well. Is are you willing to take, like she said, are you willing to take an elementary job knowing that hey, one of those secondary teachers is going to retire soon, or are you willing to move across the state to get the thing to take the job that you might want?
That's a good point. Yeah. Awesome. All right. We have more questions. Fantastic. So many. All right. Awesome. You know what? We're going to go my left to right. So we're going to start with Ree and then go on down. Fantastic.
Hello. So as music educators, you have a lot of students. So I was wondering if you have any advice for how to continuously make personal connections with students and get to know them as individual people too.
I have 470 students, I think, because I teach K through 2. And I'm in one building, and I don't even teach all the classes. My building is huge. So I do first name. I tell the kids I do first names only. I don't know their last names. How do you foster relationships? So I take a couple minutes most classes, and I do a thing called Good News, Good Things, where I say, okay, tell me something good. I went to my grandma's house this weekend. I went to see the Saginaw Spirit hockey team play. I went to the beach. I went camping. I went to Disney. Stuff like that. Give them an opportunity to share something about their life. I mean, honestly, like I said, I have 470 kids. I could not tell you something, a detail about each one of their lives. I just can't. But you number one, you show them that you care. At least, in our level, like the whole idea of kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's true at my level. Excuse me. So just showing that you care. I tell my students every day at the end of music class, I love you all, and I will see you next time. Please carefully stand up and line up to leave. One of my colleagues who teaches middle school and high school ends her classes with, I love you all, now get out. So telling your students that you care about them and legitimately feeling that way, not just saying it, but legitimately feeling that way. It's a little bit easier to do when I taught middle school and high school because their brains are a little bit more adapted, or a little bit more, developed sometimes. But trying to find those instances, even if you see 400 or 500 kids a week, or every 2 days, like I do, trying to find ways to get to know them, like trying to give them ways to give them things to share. Maybe have them bringing a song that they like, or if they're older and they can actually read and write. Like I said, I teach 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. Maybe do like a pick 3 songs and write about why you like them and then read them, stuff like that. So trying to you got to find opportunities for during the time that you have for your students to be able to share things about them.
Yeah, in the same boat. I'm only at 450 at this school with my elementary K4. In Bay City, when I taught there, I was at 2 different schools. I think the total was like 600 students at a time. So I don't even get first names, and I'm notoriously bad about names. Like I'll see my wife's nodding her head. I'll see people that I've known my entire life, and I won't remember their name until like 15 minutes after we finished our conversation. I'm like, who is that person? She's like, the one that you roomed with? I'm like, yeah, that one. So I'm really bad at names, and I'm honest about that. But as far as building personal connections, for me, it's like 2 parts. Number one, like I am happy to share about good things happening in my life or hard things happening in my life without getting obviously too personal with my kids, but it's important that like they see you're willing to share as well. And then finding ways to integrate, like letting them make choices and show interests in what you do. And so in the elementary world, like the easy examples are like, we're singing a song about a picnic, and like, what is your favorite type of food? Have you ever been on a picnic? Or if you're singing a song about a dog, they all have dogs. This one's really sad because their dog died 7 years ago, but you're only 6 years old. I'm still sad about it. And things like that. But letting them share, and also taking advantage of like the little in-between moments. I'm always out in the hallways in the morning, or I have bus duty, which I hate, but I like talk to the kids while I'm waiting they're waiting to get on the bus and things like that. And then you can start to build relationships those ways. And over the years, you'll get to know them better naturally too. Like if you're a band director, you have them from 5th grade to 12th grade or whatever, and I have them K4, so you get to know them year after year a little bit better each time.
Very unique to our situation, and it kind of overlaps with like an earlier one too, is that even though he doesn't get paid to, he is essentially, he calls it he's the assistant to the band director. Not my assistant band director, he is the assistant to the band director. But Zach and our 3 boys are very involved, and I am very involved on his side of things, so that it's a family ordeal for us. I have 2 of ordeal, whatever, lifestyle. I don't know. It's a thing. So I have 2 of our kids in band right now. We have a 7th grader and a 5th grader, which teaching your own children is a very interesting part of life. Not all teachers get to teach their own kids, nor do all teachers get to say, I am your middle school and high school band director. Welcome aboard. Stay with me for 8 years. And so one part of that is really cool, because we've only been here for 3 years in Frankie Booth now, is that even though he hasn't had my middle school and high school kids, they feel like they know Zach. right? And they feel like they know my kids. And when I go to his performances and help out before his concerts, the kids feel like they know me and they can come talk to me because we are a family unit and we kind of travel and do everything together. And that's part of our work-life balance, is making it a family thing instead of just, well, mom's gonna go do that or dad's gonna go do that. We all kind of go together. And my students, they're my kids, know my actual children, and my children know my band kids. So when they come hang out in the band room, they go talk to all of my high schoolers, and they will have conversations and hang out and talk with them and, sit with them for the football games or whatever. So making those connections beyond your own classroom, not just like going to the, so-and-so has a basketball game. Those are great to go to as well. But like for us, making those family connections and the kids seeing us as a family unit allows them to know like a different type of caring. Like they know that they've got both of us. And so I have an open door, open office area in the middle school, just policy. And so it's nothing to like walk in and the kids are just talking to you. Like I am trying to like get stuff done and like do everything before the bell rings, but you want to have a conversation? All right, let's have the conversation, right? Like, or before class, I just get like bombarded with kids and like they got to tell me everything right in the moment. I love it. And it's time to be in your seat. Let's go, right? Like there's a time and a place, and you got to kind of like bring those walls down so they know when they can have those conversations with you. But then they also know, okay, we are in like work mode. Don't break that wall right now. We're going to work. And then at the end of class, we can go back to, this is where I'm going this weekend. Or my aunt's sister just had a baby, so it's my cousin twice. What was I telling you about? Yeah, thank you, middle school. So there's that too. But yeah, just letting them in and seeing those interactions, I think, is extremely helpful too.
Microphone down. So in my classroom, a few things that I have up there so that they know that my room is a safe place. I have an ally flag up in my room. And I know in some districts that might not necessarily fly. However, nobody said anything to me yet, so it's and so I have that up in my room so that the kids know. And there are kids, they're like, what is that flag? I've never seen that flag. And so it gives me the opportunity to tell them, hey, this is a safe place for everybody. This is why I do these things. And, so anybody can come talk to me. And then every day I have a slide up that has our agenda for the day. But I also put up there the National Day of, so like today is Lego Day, just so you know. And so I talk to them, I'm like, hey, do you today, how many of you guys like doing Legos? And so I build that in right at the beginning of the class time. And so some of them will do that. And then I also do a terrible joke of the day, which it's not labeled terrible, it's just joke of the day. Like today was, where is a snowman's favorite place to dance? The snowball. Yeah. And they go, oh, why do you pick these terrible jokes? But it gets them to have that time to kind of loosen up a little bit. And is that music related at all? No. None of the, it usually is not. But that's the time where I can kind of create those different things. The other part is, you'll hear a lot of times, hey, be out in the hallway. Well, my building is a California-style campus. So my building is the band choir room, the auditorium, and the orchestra room. There really isn't a hallway. So I usually stay by my computer so that I'm out of their way, so when they're coming in, they can get their things and go to their spaces. But they know that that's a safe place for them to come talk to me if they need to. You can also watch as kids are coming in, how they come in your room. And that beginning time when kids are walking in, you can be like, hey, come here, come talk to me. Tell me what's going on. You look like you're upset today. And so it's okay to ask the kids. Sometimes they don't want to talk, and it's okay. You can be like, hey, if you want to talk at the end, you need a space, just, let me know, whatever. And those kind of things, especially for middle schoolers, because there's always drama. So there is always something. I mean, today my 7th grade choir kids came in and they were like, "Oh, did you see that fight at lunch? Oh my gosh!" And they're going on, that kind of thing. So they're like, "Yeah, it's so cool. We get to see that." But I didn't take my phone out this time, so I wasn't instigating. But did you see? I'm like, you guys talking about it is instigating. But so it's just middle schoolers. So, but it's one of those like they come in and I'm like, "Hey, so how would that make that person feel?" And it's okay to talk about feelings. Just because I teach music doesn't mean that I can't talk about those things with those kids too, because especially middle school, feelings is everything. My friend is not talking to me today. Why aren't they talking to me today? It's not like, oh, I have this math test or I have that. No, it's like friends and relationships are all they think about. And so being able to build that in and knowing like, okay, we're doing this. And then as Chelsea was saying also, okay, now it's time to work. Okay, let's get going. And so they know when it's time to get to work and do those things. But at the same time, they also know that it's a safe place and they can communicate with me whatever they need to.
That's great. All right, let me check the time. Okay, we have time for one more question. So there's Liz and Emily. Rock, paper, yeah, do it. Oh. Okay, but Liz, I can email your question to them. And they can.
You can ask afterward.
Hello. On top of like a work-life balance and not making like your entire life just music, how do you still find time to enjoy your instrument and like find time to practice and perform? Because like that's like your main thing at first, So.
I don't. I'm going to be totally honest with you. The last time I really played my trombone was when Doc Bob retired, and we did the big trombone concert. And then like coming up and doing the CMU days and things like that. Now, for me, that's mostly because, like I said, I have prioritized my family, and so I don't have as much time. Now, I will say I do sing. I am in the church choir, and so I do that. We have a pickup choir at our church where it's right after church service. It's 15 minutes, so I get that 15 minutes in, and so it's not very long, but it's still, that helps my soul. But my trombone, I miss my trombone. But I know when my kids are older, then I will be able to pick that back up again. That is not something that is ever going to go away. But right now at this stage in my life, that's just not my priority at this point. Now, he does some other things, so I'm going to pass the mic down that way.
In addition to teaching, like I conduct a community band in Flushing. So, I mean, I exercise, these musical muscles, not necessarily my saxophone playing. I do play, there's a community band that plays in the summer that kind of like grabs everybody from around the area, so I play in that. We do like 3 rehearsals and then do like 4 or 5 concerts. I mean, I don't play, the only time I play instruments for my job is when I demonstrate instruments. So I get to bring in a flute, a clarinet, a saxophone, a trumpet, a horn, trombone, whatever we have around our house. We're band people, we have a lot of instruments. And I get to demonstrate that. I have a violin that I play badly, but for the elementary kids, I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb. They think I'm like amazing. So part of that is just how you balance your time. Like she said, I'm hoping that, as the girls get older, maybe there'll be some more opportunities for us to play. My elementary colleague teaches elementary music and gigs. Like he plays saxophone and he gigs in the Saginaw area. So, I mean, part of it is what opportunities are around your area where you end up teaching. Is there a community band? Are there a bunch, depending on your instrument, there are a bunch of like weddings you could play for? Is there, could you teach private lessons? If you're like us and you teach elementary music, could you start a private lesson studio? So part of it is just how you prioritize your time and how you, where you decide to put it. So.
It's not easy to pick up my tuba during class. And so my tuba doesn't go with me to class because that is not the instrument I pick up and play with my students. So for me, even though I've taught everything, K-12, all types of band, whatever, this is the longest that I've taught middle school band in a row. And so right now, my priority isn't my tuba at home. It is working on all of my secondary instruments, because let me tell you, they get really sad if you don't play their instrument with them during beginning band. And so I prioritize all of my secondary instruments, and so that I can play with them and not make a fool of myself. Flute is probably the one that's taken me the longest, because it just doesn't make sense in my brain some days, and then my flute players make fun of me for it. It's fine, but that's where I put my own musical energy right now, outside of teaching is, can I play my beginning band instruments well enough that I can impress my 5th graders and not make a fool of myself? And that's definitely not my tuba.
I actually play quite a bit, although I didn't for a while. That was when we were first having kids and first teaching. You have to play it kind of by ear and be honest with yourself based on what you're doing for work. Do you have the time to play your instrument or do your thing at a higher level? You're probably never going to be able to play it as much or in as high a level as groups you are here. It's the harsh reality. It's really true. There are some really amazing groups out there, like Genesee Wind Symphony. I subbed for them and I played my horn. They play at I forget what's the middle. Wind Symphony is the middle band here, right? Is that what it is still? They play at pretty close to that same level. And that's a community band made up of mostly music students, retired music teachers, and active music teachers. So it's a really good group. But it's going to be hard to stay at that level, and you probably won't. However, if you have the time, you can dedicate it to finding groups and playing with groups. But I think that if you're open to the idea of small ensembles and you put it out there that you're willing to sub, because I've played in several community groups around my area, and I found that when I sub for them, I love it, because they're like, we need somebody, come play. And so I'll sit in for a rehearsal or two and then do the concert, because most of the stuff they play it's so easy, especially with tuba. It's so easy that it takes very little effort and practice, and you still get a good musical experience. But for you to be in those groups and be you have to show up every week to this 2.5-hour rehearsal, and they're we're playing band lit that I played when I was in beginning of high school or late middle school. It gets a little boring after a while. It takes up a lot of time. But if you're in a small ensemble, your small ensemble can determine how busy you are. My brass quintet has times when it's busy and times when it's not. Or times of the year, I play in a polka band, like I said. In the fall, we have gigs 1 or 2 a weekend for all of the end of August through September and October because of Oktoberfest. So I play a ton with that group all the time. Yes, in Lederhosen. It's hilarious. So you can find those times when you're less busy and do things like that. Be flexible, but you also have to accept that if you're not going to be quite as much as you are here.
It's just a different environment. All right, everyone. I think and I know that you all really enjoyed what our panelists had to say. Please show them with a round of applause. And I'm pretty sure that they might be willing to take a few questions right now if you just want to come up and chit-chat with them. And so please feel free to come up and meet us. And with that, we're all finished. Thank you for joining us.
Fire up,